to Life After War. My name is Sandra Robinson. I am a combat female veteran, and I have been a widow, single. I have been through divorce, sexual trauma, disability issues, but by grace of God, I have made it through. I wanted to welcome my guest today, Lisa White, who is also a combat female veteran. And we wanted to talk to her about a little bit of things, and well, a lot of things I should say, and major things. And that is about going through life after war. Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with going to Desert Storm?
Oh, Lord, where should I begin? Let's see. I was 21 years old at the time when my unit got activated, and I was on maternity leave with my firstborn child. And, you know, like any mother, new mother, that's the last thing you think about, is what's going to happen to me, like trying to get your whole work schedule, surrounded with your daycare. So the last thing I'm thinking about is actually going to war, what I mean? Right. So I'm watching George Bush and I'm folding up clothes and I'm like praying like, Lord, please don't let my unit be one unit to get called down, to be activated. And my first day back to work, my unit gets, called that, hey, 1st Cavalry Division is getting deployed. So what they did was they marched all the single parents and the dual military couples. And the dual military couples are people who are both in the service. So they marched us in the orderly room. It wasn't like I really had a discussion with my husband at the time. It was just kind of like I had to make basically a command decision, so to speak.
So he was in the military also?
Yes, he was in the military also. So, I called my husband, thinking like he's going to be supportive. Like, yes, babe, I understand you got deployed. We'll figure it out. Sandra, he tells me he wants me to get out.
Wow.
I mean, literally, that just like rocked my whole world. I was not expecting to hear that, from my husband. I thought he was like, ride or die, like he was going to be supportive, He was like, you need to get out the military. So I was like looking at him like, I took the same oath as you did. I went through basic training. I had these goals and aspirations of retiring out the military. It's kind of like, how dare you tell me I have to get out the military?
Because of this.
Because of this. Because I was a mother, what I mean? Right, but I'm also a wife. But I'm also, at the end of the day, I'm a soldier. What I mean? For life. A soldier for life. So, my second thing was like, okay, I'm calling my father. What I mean? Because my father was like a man that I knew that I could depend on, that was going to give me some sound advice. So that's what I did. I called my dad, and my dad basically, my little name is Tumbleweed. So he would say, Tumbleweed, like, you have to do what's best for you and your daughter. Like, that is your husband, but you really have to think about you and your daughter. This is like your
How was your daughter at that
She
time?
was 2.5 months old.
Okay.
Yeah, she was like, actually she was 2 months old. And I was like, you know what, he's right. So I made the difficult decision I ever had to do, which is, and I knew it was going to be some repercussion behind it. I chose to go ahead and go overseas. I really did. And I mean, needless to say, my ears was burnt up by the time I got home. But I mean, I had to do what I had to do.
Yes, you sure did.
Yeah, I could have took the easy route out because I'm not saying like, it's kind of like a decision that as a woman and as a mom, no one can really tell you what to do. You have to do what's best for you and for yourself and for your child. You know what I mean? And I was looking at the bigger picture. I guess like with me, I was kind of like independent. I didn't want to like really put all my trust in my husband if I knew I was having problems with my husband.
Right.
So I was like, no, I got to look out for me and my daughter.
Right.
So needless to say, I made a choice. I decided to go ahead and fight. And after that, I don't know about you, but I know with our unit, girl, we was working like 12, 14, 16-hour days. We would be at the railhead, the railhead, we'll be loading up equipment to go on the track to go down to Beaumont, Texas, which is like a border where the port was at. So, we was working some really long days. So needless to say, I had to make sure I had good daycare. And it just got to the point where my daughter was spending more time with the babysitter, and she actually was spending time with me and my husband at the time. So I just had to make that painful phone call and tell my family, like, I need y'all to come and get her. And at that time, she was 2.5 months old. So she was 2.5 months old. My family came from DC to come and get my daughter. So she would have like at least loved ones with her.
While you were gone?
Yeah, while we was working the long hours.
Okay.
So by the time we actually deployed, she was 3 months old.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about war, we think about it to be a military conflict. We think about it to be more so just the military, the soldiers, the settlement, people going to war conflict with other countries. But war, there's a lot of things. War to me is any type of trauma that you go through. It could be, like I said, divorce. It could be the loss of a child. It could be the loss of a job. It could be problems with your family. So, you know, life after war, we will discuss some other topics. But today we want to talk about what happened when you returned back from Operation Desert Storm. You know, I know God brought you through it because you're here today.
Yeah.
So, and I know God brought me through it because I'm here today. But going to war, there's a lot of imprints that are left after coming home. So.
Yeah, it is. I think one thing that I realized when I came back home, you know, it wasn't like they gave us a debriefing. So I didn't know what to expect. My whole thing when I came back home from war was I didn't have a place to live at. So I had the pressure of me trying to find, you know, a place to live at, you know, trying to get back into a routine of being a mom, you know, and I really didn't know what that was, you know, because I really had like only that short amount of time with my daughter. So I didn't really have a lot of tools as to what I'm supposed to do after I came back home from the war. I mean, I was clueless. I mean, I didn't really have a strong support system when I was stationed at Fort Hood. So I really had to figure out a lot of things on my own. And I mean, I was lost. I mean, I really felt like I went to like a depression and a lot of guilt. You know, was on me when I came back from the war. You know, I felt really guilty about leaving my daughter behind because by the time I came back home, she was like 10 and a half months old. You know, so I lost like all that time from my daughter and she didn't know who I was. So that was like something I was not prepared to deal with when I came back home from the war. No one told you that. You know, when you come back home, like what to expect when you get back with your family, how the routine is going to be, how the pushback you're going to get, like how your kid's going to react or respond, or even how you and your husband are going to be when y'all get back together.
Exactly.
No one explains that to you because the military don't tell you that, your family don't tell you, like no one tells you. So you are so unprepared as to what's going to happen to you when you come back home from war. So I was a hot mess. I'm not even going to lie. I really was. I had no idea.
So what are some of the scars from that the actual war left on you? What are some of the imprints that are left in your heart and your mind from the war? And we call them scars sometimes, but it's imprint scars. What would you like to call them? What would you feel carried over from going to war?
A lot of guilt from leaving my daughter behind. I mean, I think that stayed with me even to this day. I think that is like one of the biggest ones.
How about any flashbacks? Do you have any vivid flashbacks or recurrence of images?
I think the thing about me is like I'm always fearful, like with this whole life and death situation. You know, when you're over there, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You know, you hear the chemical alarms going off, so you always have this fear, real fear that this could be it. You know, you don't know, like, you know, they train you with nuclear, biological, chemical warfare. And we've seen like the horrific films of what these chemicals and biological elements, what it can do to your body. So you fearful every time when the chemical alarms will go off. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, oh my God. So I even developed being claustrophobic from being over there in the war. Because being in that confined in your pro mask and being confined in your mop gear, you know, even though we will break it. Once you break it, you can never use it again. But just being all confined and all that stuff, it just makes me feel claustrophobic. So between me being fearful of my life and fearful and also being claustrophobic and feeling guilty about my daughter, And another thing that left a major scar on me in the war is rain. I can't stand the sound of rain. It really like give me a bunch of flashbacks. I'm still dealing with that in therapy. You know, needless to say, like this past week was really bad because it's been raining like cats and dogs.
Yes, it sure
in the
has.
Triad area.
It sure
and
has.
I mean, and I mean, and it brought back a lot of like flashbacks of when I was over in the war. So I mean, I really had to talk to my therapist to help me get me through that week. That was like a really rough week on me.
So do you have nightmares?
I have nightmares. I have nightmares.
Do you feel like you're detached from some of your family since you returned? Or?
When I came back, I kind of like kept myself in a bubble. I guess because I didn't know how to react to them or how to respond. I felt like I went through something that they have no idea or clue what I went through. So I kind of like closed myself off to a certain degree. And when my husband returned back, I felt like I had aged like maybe 20 years. It felt like, you know, I was only 22 years old at the time. So I felt like I aged like I was 42, a 42-year-old person living in a 22-year-old body.
You have been through so
because
much.
I've been through so much, you know, and needs to say like he couldn't understand me. I couldn't understand him. And
so he didn't go.
He went. He went as well. But I guess like his experience from war was different from mine. And he probably was going through his issue, you know, like how to deal with, you know, his wounds, his scars, his experience when he came back from war as well. So I think like at that time, they didn't talk about having post-traumatic stress syndrome back then. You know, that wasn't a thing. They tell you when you're going through depression not to talk about it, especially if you are in the military and you have anything like a secret clearance or a top secret clearance. You know, you can't tell anybody if you feeling mentally, you know, any type of distress or whatever, because they feel like you're not capable of doing your job or you're a threat to national security. So therefore you can't talk about your experiences at all. So you are forced to a certain degree to compartmentalize what you are feeling, what you're going through.
Mental health has always had a bad stigma, and you know, it's unacceptable. And I'm glad now the world has changed to the point that people are allowing you to speak how you feel without judging you and without labeling you. So
it's good because I don't know. I mean, I wish back then it was more of a conversation. I think that would have kind of like helped a lot of young people, or even like just people in the military in general, deal with how to deal with life after war. There really wasn't no resources for us at that time. There was no conversations and things like that. I mean, I feel like in comparison to post 9/11, and in comparison to the Persian Gulf War when we went over there, it's like night and day. Because there was no resources available. Now you have a lot of things that's online. You know, people are more vocal. There are more advocacies out there to help people deal with a lot of issues that come back from war. You know, transition after war. Whereas when we was back in 91, there was nothing, you know, to tell us like this is what to expect when you come back home from war back in 1991. There was nothing at all. It was like you come back home, and those of us that was active duty, you know, we was back into our routine of being in the military. We had to deal with a lot of issues. But I think that the thing that concerns me now that I'm thinking about, like what happened with a lot of reservists and National Guard
like me.
Got called up. So what happened to you all when y'all get called up to go and you have to go back and kind of like transition back into your civilian life? So how do y'all cope with life after war? You know?
Exactly. And for me, it was tough because I was in nursing school at East Carolina University. So just to come back from war and have to go straight to college and finish my exams from a whole year ago was very difficult. And it made me, like you said, put everything in a box. I wasn't able to deal with the trauma that I had gone through. I had to deal with graduating from college, you know. So, and no one in my family was there, or even my friends in college. I was the only nursing student at East Carolina University.
So let me ask you this. So you was the only out of your peers, out of your friends, you was the only one. Oh my goodness. And I
Yeah.
thought I had it rough.
No.
It was like
Yeah, so
Oh.
nobody, when you come back from war, they ask you, did you kill anybody?
Oh man,
that's
they ask you
that's
like the
question.
dumbest questions.
Right. Did you kill anybody? Did you shoot anybody?
Mhm.
So I mean, that's all people are concerned about, not
Yeah.
about how do you feel.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What happened to you personally? What is your experience from going to war? So it's a lot that I put in a box until the last few years, and that's not healthy. We need to be in an environment that we can communicate, establish a sisterhood, and be around people who have gone through similar experiences. So God brought me through it, and how did He bring you through it? Do you have any, or was there anything that you kind of used? I know I prayed, but was there anything particular that you used to help get you through it?
I ain't gonna lie, like in the beginning, I think I compartmentalized things so much that I want to feel numb. So I was dealing with some alcoholic issues for a little while. I will use alcohol as a numbing mechanism to help me kind of like suppress whatever nightmares, whatever feelings that I was feeling, at that time. Because like I said, I didn't know what else to do. And then I think what kind of like was my turnaround time was when I lost my dad. I lost my dad. I came back from the war in April. And in November, I lost my father. And then like 2 weeks after I lost my father, I buried my grandma. She had died. So I didn't have nowhere else to go but to get on my knees and pray. I had to kind of like use spirituality and religion to kind of like help me get through those hard moments. But it was kind of like a wake up call. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a constant battle. Like logically, it's like I know what I need to do, but at the same time, it's like it don't make any sense when you're going through it. Right. You just feel like the world is like coming to an end. It literally feels that way. And you have these flashbacks of what happened, and sometimes I even realize like it can be like certain sounds, that will kind of like cause a trigger. It could be something that
would startle you.
That would startle me, especially like when you hear like fireworks around the 4th of July. That used to like make me just like like spaz out, because you're thinking like, because over there when you hear stuff like that, they make you go in the bunker. And I don't know if you ever had to go in the bunker, but even that's another reason why I'm claustrophobic too.
Right.
Because they would have like everybody like in your tent. Yeah. And then on guard duty, you don't know who's going to bust through those gates. You don't know. It's like you're the first one. You're the first line of defense.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're the first line of defense, you're the first one to get killed. You know what I mean? And that's a real thing. And at a young age, when you 22, 21, 19, 18 years old, you're not even thinking about dying. You think about living your life to the fullest. No one is thinking about, dying. I think that the whole reality when we had to do them wills and power of attorney, that was kind of like, oh my God, like stuff just got real. Like I could possibly die. You know what I mean? And then you sit up here like, gotta figure out what happened to my daughter and both of us. I mean, who's thinking about that
at age 21,
at 21, 22, and 19? No one is thinking about that stuff. Your friends, they back home, and when you come back home, they have no clue of all the stressors that you had to deal with when you was over there. So that kind of made the conversation of you talking to your friends and your families, as to what you experienced over there in war, very hard. Yeah. So, I mean,
they had no, they could not even understand. They could not even begin to respect that you had been through something that serious. So
I mean, so that's kind of like why we use between me praying and me.
Excuse me, everyone. I just kind of pushed something over there, but go ahead. We'll start again. Oh, that's why you said praying.
Yeah, praying. Praying helped a lot, but I had to remember what my father told me prior to me going over there. how he would give me these tools and going back to my childhood and using those tools that him and my grandmother and my mom had given me. I had to kind of like go back. It's kind of like I just like, when I was going through the storm, I didn't think about any of that stuff.
Is there a particular scripture that you may have used when you were recovering and coming back from?
No, not in particular. What scripture, do you have any favorite ones?
You know, just the Lord's Prayer is what got me through going to war. And, you know, there's so many great scriptures like, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. It's just constantly reading and learning and believing, you know, believing, because it's sometimes, you know, I lost my first husband in a car accident in '95. So it was God who definitely brought me through, because it brought up a lot of memories from Desert Storm. And it still brings up a lot of memories. So it definitely was God that brought me through. And the one thing with Life After War, with our show here, we want to allow people to use the word war to explain their trauma. So, you know, there's some other trauma I know that you've gone through, that I've gone through, that sometimes can be equivalent to conflict, a military conflict. Like, there's some things that we've gone through that have been even worse. So, you know,
it is.
we want just to uplift each other. We want to be able to provide a space that people can help another person, you know, and that is through conversation, through talking, through sharing. So thank you for coming, Lisa. I appreciate you. We want to thank the broadcasters at WYTV7 and Libby for allowing us to be here today. We look forward to sharing some other stories, and we hope that one person at least was able to be reached by hearing our story. Thank you.
Thank you.